Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and today we're looking at reviewing the most recent chapter of 7 Deadly Sins, which should have really been called Girl Power because it really focuses on Elizabeth and Elaine. A relatively simple chapter, a few interesting points to go through. For me, this was a decent chapter. I would say 7 or 8 out of 10. The possibilities are endless with this one. I have a few questions, but without further ado, let's get into the review. So, point number 1, the rules and regulations of this battle tournament, which sound crazy. So, the first rule is all weapons, all magic, all types of fighting allowed, including dirty tactics. That says a lot about how this tournament is really gonna go. If your first rule is anything, pretty much goes. And number 2, the ways to win. You can either knock out your opponent out of the stadium and he falls down to his death. The reason why, because they're really high on us, they can fly. You render them helpless and unable to defend themselves, or you kill them. So killing is actually allowed in this tournament, which naturally leads on to number 3, the one main rule above all else. You can't run away or try to escape in this tournament. So basically, now that you're there, you're not leaving. So what's possibly going to happen, like we already know, is when they get the winner, they're basically going to absorb all his magic and all of the people that have fallen. So it's an interesting little set of rules which sets the tone for things to come. So that is point number 1. Point number 2, names. Throughout this story, this chapter I should say, there's been a funny set of names that have been assigned to people. So for example, Gokshina, the original fairy king or princess or whatever you like to call her, refers to Meliodas as Meliodas, but for Ban, she actually calls him Mr. Pouty McSulks a lot, which I found funny because why would she even think of a name like that? But it suits him well because he's kind of a sulky kind of dude, even though half the time he's like crazy smiling with excitement. And interesting when you look at the names that Elaine had chose for Meliodas and Ban. So for Ban it was, "Sir, what the heck is he even thinking, Ban?" And Meliodas says, "So no idea what's going on in his head, Meliodas." So that gives you an idea of these funny little names that they've got for the people, but it suits them well because the banter between Elizabeth and Elaine was about how they're so similar, Ban and Meliodas, and the fact that they're friends makes sense. But there's a few funny names that they were thrown in there in this chapter which I found interesting. So that's point number 2. So point number 3, naturally finding out that Elizabeth and Elaine are now in the tournament did vex out Meliodas and Ban. To their natural reaction is like, what are you playing at? Why they're even involved in this? Now Gloshina basically says once they've entered the labyrinth, they are now participants of the tournament, which basically means that they get to decide the outcome of what's going on. What was positive from this though, referencing to girl power, was both Elizabeth and Elaine said, "Don't worry about us, we can take care of ourselves." And I thought, you know what, that's pretty cool. Now this was demonstrated because the assassins went in for the attack straight away against Elaine and Elizabeth, probably thinking they can take out the weak link. But Elaine showed her power. She was a guardian of the forest for a reason, and she blows away the assassin. What the further turn events we'll kind of get into the next point, but that's point number 3. So point number 4, so they start talking and Elaine basically goes, "Oh, so you're Elizabeth and nice to meet you." And Elizabeth's like, "How do you know who I am?" And she goes, then there's a bit of a trip down memory lane, I guess, because basically she says, "Ban's always with Meliodas, you're always with Meliodas, and remember the time when we went to the dead city of the undead?" He goes, "Oh, you must be Elaine," and they get to know each other. So while they're bantering away, you often think when you read this that really in the middle of a fight you get to talk. To which the assassins kind of reciprocate or kind of rethink this out from a reader's point of view, even saying, in the middle of battle you think you can talk? Next thing you know, here comes a smoke bomb, and they call it snake's whip. It's like a venom that attaches itself to Elizabeth, pulls her away, and then the second assassin goes after Elaine, thinking, "Oh, I've separated them, I'll be fine." However, when Elaine uses the golden imperial wrath technique to nearly more or less kill the assassin. That speaks volumes at the potential fighting prowess and power of Elaine. Now, what was interesting with this one was that once the separation happened, once that attack had actually hit, Elizabeth came out unscathed, which even shocked Elaine. She was like, you should be like writhing in pain right now, the venom should be everywhere with you. And to which point she goes, look, I'm fine. And before the assassin could die, she healed him and she forgave him. She goes, and they go, who are you? She goes, I'm the princess of, said kingdom. I am the daughter of said person. And she goes, it's easy to overlook someone, which kind of shows the good nature that she is. What it also does show is the fact that she's able to use, to a certain degree, the goddess powers as well. So an interesting element to bear in mind. One thing we haven't considered and thought about is potentially how far she can go with that technique, because she can heal and so could Glockshina can heal. So how are their powers compared, being that she's a goddess and she's a demon but she's originally a fairy? How do their powers compare? We'll have to wait and see. But that's point number 4. So point number 5, final thoughts. Having seen Elaine and Elizabeth go at it, more Elaine than Elizabeth, we get to see that they can take care of themselves. How do they compare to every other fighter in the tournament remains to be seen, but it'll be interesting seeing how that plays out. Bearing in mind she was a guardian for a while, and she does have that kind of that technique. Is she as powerful as King? I don't know, but she'd be something comparable, you'd think, bearing in mind she's a sister. At the same time, we haven't really seen Elizabeth use her goddess skills, so to speak, in a combative form. It's very kind of a passive or supportive type of role. I'd imagine in the future bouts this is going to become more important when she starts using her abilities, but how far she can go and how powerful she can become remains to be seen. Also, I was thinking, if you look at the 10 commandments, they all seem to be from different kind of clans or background. So you've got the demons themselves, so you've got Meliodas and his 2 brothers, right? You've got the original king of the giants, you've got the original fairy king. That's just 5 of the 10 commandments. You had the guy that could not lie, and the person that basically ate everything. So if you take them out of the equation, you've got 3 others. So I can imagine there could be some interesting characters that we have there. I mean, will we get someone from the goddess clan? Will we get an earthling that became a demon? It all remains to be seen, and at the same time we need to find out why they've actually chosen to go under the demon king in the first place, which also asks the question, how powerful is the demon king? So there's a lot of different questions to be asked based on the answers we got in this actual chapter. It all remains to be seen, but before we can find out, we'll have to wait to the next few chapters and see how this arc turns out. In the meantime, keep enjoying and watching my videos. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe. If you like something what I do, leave me a thumbs up and leave it in the section below. If you dislike something what I do, give me a thumbs down, but leave it in the section below. If you don't, I don't know how to work on it. If you're just going to give me a thumbs down, I'm really going to ignore it. It's not really going to make a difference. I'm just going to consider it trolling. But if you can, please leave it in the comment section below. That's all for me today, guys. As always, take it easy. Peace.